Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury are proud to have FanSets as its presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your order at fansets.com. FanSets. Our pins have character.
This episode is also sponsored by Science Division, the makers of the galaxy's first interactive Tribble. Stay tuned for a discount code to bring a Tribble into your home today. Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun.
The Divine Treasury is made of pure latinum.
From the back nine at the Pod Fleet Command Tournament on Ryza, this is the Divine Treasury Podcast. My name is Mike Bovia, and if we're on the back nine, I'm probably in the sand trap. But as always, I'm joined by my co-host, who's probably sitting pretty in the fairway, Jamie Rogers.
Actually, I think the last time that we played, I was the one that was in the sand trap. You never went into the sand trap. So that's definitely not an accurate statement.
So let's give some full disclosure here. When you and I went out with my dad, that round, I lost 0 balls. The round after that I went out with my dad, I came home with just 1 ball. So,
well, with golf, like anything else, like I start off good and all of a sudden I start overthinking things. And yeah, that back half of that game, those last like 3 or 4 holes were brutal. I couldn't hit anything, but no, it was a good time, but I digress.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about golf just a little bit because of one of the things that our guest for this episode collects. But before we get into that, as always, we'll discuss some of the new merchandise that's on the market. So the first thing that is on the market or has been announced coming to the market, I can't remember what the deal is. I've heard of this already. So I believe this is just a follow-up to it coming to the market, is the Playmobil USS Enterprise playset. So we're always talking with guests about the fact that Lego does not have a Star Trek license, which, it's true. They do not. But Playmobil is putting out this playset. I'm having a hard time figuring this out because I thought Playmobil was like a kid's version of Lego, being able to put stuff together, but everything I'm seeing in these pictures, it does not really look like that.
I think the figurines look more like the Playmobil style.
Yeah.
But the price tag isn't really kid friendly, I would say.
Oh my goodness, no. Well, the box says it's for 10 plus. So that is definitely not typically in Playmobil's wheelhouse, but this is a gigantic model playset, whatever we want to call it, 42 inches long. That's over 3.5 feet long. It's 18 inches wide. And the reason why is because this thing has lights and sounds, both of which will be able to be operated off of a smart device, a phone, tablet, whatever you've got around. It's going to have a cradle. You'll be able to hang it from the ceiling if you want. And then all kinds of other things. So a section of the saucer comes out to show the full bridge from the original 1701. And then a section of the star drive comes off as well and shows an engineering section. And both of these sections are large enough to put the figures in. So it comes with the main cast of characters for figures. Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, Scotty, Sulu, Uhura, and Chekhov. The full crew is there. as Jamie mentioned, this is not for the faint of heart when it comes to price tags. This is a $500 price tag. So you can currently pre-order it in a few different areas. But the release date is expected to be somewhere in the September area. So little time to wait on it. But I mean, this thing is massive. It does look pretty cool. I really don't know if I'm going to put out the Quatloos for that. If I was 15 years younger, maybe.
I would say maybe Jeff Bezos' kids can afford that, I guess. But
yeah.
I will say, I mean, it is a pretty big size. And for those of our listeners that follow me on Twitter, with me doing the Enterprise D build, my Enterprise D is going to end up being 27.5 inches. So, you're talking 2.5 feet. So, I mean, this is 42 inches long. So, I mean, if you're seeing some of the size of my saucer, think about how big this thing's going to be. So, I mean, it is going to be a massive, massive toy that we have here for sure.
You need some shelf space for this one.
Yeah.
Unless you're hanging it from your ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how heavy it is though, to hang it from your ceiling.
I know. I wouldn't want to anyway. Like if I'm buying that and it's got those cutaway pieces, I want it on a shelf so that you can see the cutaway areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, something else that's coming out as well from the Bradford Exchange, they are launching their Metals Starship collection. So they've launched a new series of Starship models. They are cast metal starships, and they are nice gold sculptures, of course. And they had a little description of it on the website here. Each sculpture shines in a bright golden finish that gloriously brings it to life as the perfect finishing touch. The gleaming sculptures are permanently attached to the base, shaped like the Starfleet command insignia. This collection is a stunning celebration of groundbreaking spaceship design and makes a wonderful addition to any Star Trek decor. And I will say these are very nice looking ships for sure. Not real big. The Enterprise is about 7.5 centimeters wide and about 14.5 centimeters tall. So they ain't that big for sure. And it's really kind of unclear if they were going to do more models in this collection. I'm not sure if you're familiar, Mike, with the Legends of Star Trek sculpture series that they did. But it's more predominantly done in the UK, obviously, and the US doesn't always have some of the same availability. So it's going to be interesting to see if more models come out. Maybe if they do the Enterprise D or maybe the movie style of the Enterprise, we're not sure. But right now, this is what they're talking about is the original series Enterprise.
The Bradford Exchange and the Franklin Mint were like very prevalent in the 90s for Star Trek stuff. I guess, for lack of a better term, shelf collectibles. We've all heard the Dan Davidson Enterprise story from the Franklin Mint, so we won't talk about that here because Bill already hates me enough, so I don't want to get into that one too much. But yeah, I mean, these look nice. I mean, the gold coloring really isn't my thing. As far as display models, I like them to look like they do on the show, but I know there's a lot of people out there that love the gold display models.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I kind of feel that same way about the Eaglemoss Hero Collector stuff, because they've released some of the gold models of the ships recently, and it just doesn't do it for me either. I think they're nice, but to display them along with my other ships, I'd rather look for authenticity and more closer to the studio model or whatever it is. The gold just doesn't do it for me.
We're snob collectors.
Yeah, for sure. I will say though, I'm starting to look now at that those legends of Star Trek. Yeah, like that Gorn.
It's
I
pretty
wonder
cool.
if Jay and Kaylia saw that Gorn.
Mm.
That Gorn looks pretty sharp for sure. I like it even more than the other ones.
I'm sure she'll say something after she hears this.
Yeah.
So the next thing we want to talk about, we've been talking about this a little bit when we talk about where you can find our podcast on a regular basis, but we really want to bring to light the fact that the network now has its own app for your smart devices, and it's as we've said before. You can get on Android model devices and now on Apple model devices as well. The Trek Geeks Podcast Network app. So I guess the question that most people would say is, look, I already subscribe to the podcast. What do I need the app for? So here's the deal. So the Trek Geeks Podcast Network app is going to have a link to a page, for every show that's on the network. So if you're into Trek Geeks and Discovering Trek only, they're both there. If you're into 3 or 4 shows on the network, it's all there, one-stop shopping. Or, if you're addicted to the network, you can pull up every show from this app. But in addition to that, we're going to be doing some app exclusive content on there. So Jamie is involved with a show that's already dropped with Bill called Next Gen, where they're going to be reviewing the next generation because Bill is an original thinker when it comes to naming shows. So all of these appcasts are going to be 15 minutes. So it's not like we're taking up more of your day with stuff. 15 minutes is nothing. It goes by before you even realize it's over.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice things about this app too. You're going to be able to see, an announcements page as well, kind of talking about what's going on currently on the network. You're also going to be able to, purchase gear. Like for instance, if you'd like to get perhaps a mug of the Divine Treasury or maybe a Divine Treasury baby onesie, these are things that you'll be able to have access to on the app. But like I said, like Mike was just talking about as well, some of this exclusive content is going to be really nice on the app. We're going to be doing a segment called Level 3 Diagnostic, where we're going to be reviewing products as well. That's going to be dropping on the app. And there's going to be also some different crowdsourcing things where you as the listener will be able to submit ideas and be able to be on a podcast as well. So a lot of great things. So please check out the new app. And I like it too for the notification standpoint. I do get notifications on, my podcast apps, but when new things drop, it's really nice to have it as part of the Trek Geeks app for sure.
Yeah. And Jamie making the comment about, you being able to be on a podcast. I think there are some people when they think of that, they get like all flustered and nervous. But again, when you think about it, this is going to be 15 minutes. It's no time at all. When you think about what would go into preparing for talking about Star Trek for 15 minutes, it's nothing. And there's no limits as to how you do it. You could get 2 other friends to talk about it with you. And it would take 5 minutes of your talking time. So this is a way for people to get out of their shells a little bit and be able to talk about something that they love in a place that they love, in a place that, nobody on the network is going to bash them for what their opinion is on something, provided they're not bashing others. We're going to try and build you up as best we can. So, give it a try. Check out the app. There will also be a link to the voicemail in the app. So if there's ever something that as time goes on, you'd like to hear added to the app or see added to the app, you can leave a voicemail. There's a link to the email. And I'm sure our president / webmaster / jack of all trades, Bill, we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as he can.
And there's one really important thing I want to mention in regards to this app. Sorry, as I lose my voice. It's 100% free. The content on that app is 100% free. And it's always going to stay that way. That point has been made abundantly clear by Bill and Dan. So it's important that we know that. And it's there for really, for us to continue to expand in our knowledge and our love and appreciation for Star Trek. So it's a great opportunity and a great tool that you have at your disposal.
Yeah. And the exclusivity part of these appcasts, the only thing you need to do is download the app, which is free. So like Jamie said, there's no purchase necessary on any of this. And, if you're so willing, you can even have your own 15 minutes of infamy by being on the network.
Something else that we probably should talk about, Mike, is the fact that the Divine Treasury is going to be landing in Las Vegas in August for the 55-year mission tour. So something we're both very excited about for sure. Nice thing that's going to be going on this year as well is the Trek Geeks Network is going to have their own table in Vegas in the vendor's room. I know myself personally, I know Mike, I know this is your first time going to Vegas, so I'm sure you're going to want to explore around a lot. I've been a few times, so I'm really going to be looking forward to the opportunity of being able to meet people, meet some of our listeners and interact. So look for us in Vegas for sure.
Yeah, I've got to say, I know a lot of people love panels. With my extreme ADD, unless I know something big is going to be talked about at a panel, I have a hard time sitting there through it. So yeah, for me, it's always been about walking around a convention, buying things, meeting the people. So yeah, I think I'm sure you'll see Jamie and I manning the booth at some point during the convention so that Bill and Dan can get out and see people. But you'll also see us hovering around at the convention as well. So as we do every week, we dive into what we have acquired for our own collections. And so, as has been the custom, we will have Jamie give us some information as to what is filling his man cave this week.
So nothing new in the realm of Enterprise D build yet. Our next episode, I'll be talking about my next issues. However, I did get a FanSets order in. Got my favorite Romulan, Miss Narissa. Love her to death. Sad that she died in season 1, but I digress. And I also
may have died.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Q can resurrect her. That's all I'm going to say. Hopefully Q can bring her back because I loved Peyton List as Narissa, but I digress. I did get some other items in my FanSets order, and I'm telling you, I absolutely love what I got here. I did get the anniversary pins set, and I tell you, they are some of the sharpest looking pins I've ever gotten from FanSets. Love the colors, love the ship designs. I think they look great. Anybody that follows me on Twitter, I did post a picture of my display after I put them up on their little stands. So just to give you a little rundown of what comes in this set, you get the 55-year anniversary Star Trek, the original series, the 35 years of Star Trek 4 pin, the 30 years of Star Trek 6. You also get the 25 years of Star Trek Generations. 25 years of Star Trek First Contact, 20 years of Star Trek Enterprise, 5 years of Star Trek Beyond, and then you also get a bonus pin free with the set for ordering the entire set of the original series Enterprise. But I'm telling you, I absolutely love the black on gray of these models of the ships, and then the yellow, red, and blue. I just think it looks absolutely stunning, absolutely sharp. So very happy with that. I've also decided to go down another little autograph card rabbit hole. It's not a big rabbit hole, although it may get bigger as time goes on and more sets get released from Rittenhouse. But I've been eyeballing these autograph cards for a while, and I've decided that I'm going to kind of, pick some of these ones that I like out of some of the individual sets, which is something that I don't normally do. I know I'm looking forward to the new Women of Trek series that's coming out, because I know there's going to be some TNG cards. But instead of getting that entire set, I think I'm just going to, pluck some of, like the Guinan cards and things like that. But
and the Peyton list.
What?
And the Peyton list.
Peyton list. Yeah. We'll see though. If she's in that Women of Trek style, I'm gonna stay away. I'm gonna stay away. I don't know though. It is Peyton list though, so we'll see. But anyways, what I did pick up and what I've started to do is I'm starting to put together the Legends of Star Trek autograph series. Now, what's interesting about these is they're kind of spread out on a bunch of different sets. Right now, there's 8 of them out there, and the numbering goes from L1 to L7, and then you got a random L13. So, that tells me that there's a lot of other ones in between that are waiting to be released, and some of the other, sets that are probably coming out. So I'm sure we'll see one in the new Women of Trek set. I'm sure we're going to see one coming out in the new Star Trek The Next Generation Archives and Inscription set. So I decided to get the Legends of Star Trek set. So the ones that I've gotten so far, I got Scott Bakula. So that was card number L1, released several years ago. I believe it was 18 years ago, 2003. It was released in the season 3 of Enterprise set. I also got the Sean Kenny, which is the most recent release of the Legends of Star Trek set. It was number L13, and that was from the Star Trek original series Archives and Inscription set that just came out not too long ago. I also got Nichelle Nichols. This was LA6, and this was from the 50th anniversary Women of Trek set. It was a case incentive. I believe it was it a 6 case? I think it was a 6 case incentive.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then the last one that I've gotten so far is Kate Mulgrew. And this Legends of Trek card came out in the Inflection set a couple years ago. So those are the ones that I have so far. I do have a couple other ones on the way. So in our next episode, I'll talk about some of those.
So I also picked up the anniversary set from FanSets because, that's just what I do. And I agree. The colors on those are awesome. The only trouble I'm having with them right now is figuring out how I'm going to mount them. Like, what am I going to do with these things? I want to have them on display somewhere. So they're still just sitting on my desk so that I can look at them every day when I'm working. Let's see. I completed the full bleed series of Star Trek Picard. So I now have everything in that set that is numbered for base set, subset, autographs. I have all of that.
You even got the Picard, right? Number 1.
Yep.
Oh,
so
nice.
What I had left before this last order was A1, which is the Patrick Stewart. I did not have Issa Briones as Daj, the Jerry Ryan, the Issa Briones as Sutra, and the Brent Spiner as Soong. So I picked up all of those. I actually was able to cut a deal for the Stewart and the 2 Briones cards. And what I paid came in somewhere around $350 below book value on those. So I was pretty stoked about that. So I now have that completed, as well as having gotten the rewards card for the CP series. So I now have the Daj Asha card for that. So my subsets are complete. The numbered autographs are complete. So eventually I will catch up the bordered. I'm not as worried about that right now. Although those are the rarest ones. And I'm starting to see them disappear more and more off of eBay, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. The one that's in that series that I really want that I don't have yet is the Jerry Ryan, just because the picture on it is awesome.
Yeah, that Jerry Ryan's incredible. But to your point is, I think you're taking a very good approach to this, doing the numbered ones, because especially because we're seeing some of the gaps in the numbering. So I think those are. I'm sure probably Laris is going to be in the next set. I'm sure probably
Right.
Admiral Clancy. You probably got those people to autograph, and they're going to be in the series, season 2. So
Yep.
I think you did it right by doing it that way. I like having all the bordered ones, obviously, because I need to complete the set. But I mean, you're basically just getting a duplicate autograph of everybody who is a full bleed. So, but you're right. The rarity is ridiculous on those bordered cards. I don't think I've ever seen so many scarce cards in one set in my life.
And some of it is for like the nobodies too.
Yeah.
I don't want to say nobodies. I mean, they were in a TV show. I am not. But nobody's compared to who everyone is out there looking for. The regular characters in the show, the Peyton List, the Harry Treadaways, Issa Briones, Stewart. I mean, Marina Sirtis appeared in one episode, but still, everybody wants those cards.
Yeah. No, to your point. Yeah. Like it's crazy that they did a bordered one for every single one and made the rarity so extreme, but well, it is what it is.
That's right. That's right. So, so something else that I picked up. So I have had all of the series on either DVD or Blu-ray since they were released. But over time, I've gone through and updated what I have so that it's more shelf friendly. I am, and I believe you are one of these people, Jamie, but I'm not one of the ones that needs to have like every release that comes out as far as movies and TV shows.
I mean, like every style of packaging.
Yeah, or
I don't need that.
Yeah, so like I had all of the original packaging from The Next Generation when they first came out on DVD. I was at the store the day of release picking them up. And then the Blu-rays came out and I didn't need the DVDs anymore. So I had a friend that I knew couldn't afford something like that and really loved The Next Generation. So I asked her if she wanted it, and she was thrilled. She got 7 seasons of Next Generation for nothing. And then when the Blu-rays came out for the original series, same thing. I asked her if she wanted the original series on DVD. So, I mean, my shelf is literally just the collections at this point, the big box sets, except for Deep Space Nine. I did not have the box set that was released a couple of years ago. Good.
No, yeah. So I was interested because I did the Next Gen, the individual seasons. I did Deep Space Nine, the individual seasons. When it came to Voyager and Enterprise, I ended up getting like bootleg, like Japanese versions of the individual seasons for some reason. Like I didn't go faithfully to BJ's or Walmart like I did with Next Gen and Deep Space Nine. But now like my new thing though is obviously I have the special collector's editions, the thick gray ones of the movies for the DVDs, which I love those for sure. And I kept those and I kept my DVDs.
Me too.
When Next Gen came out on Blu-ray, I had to get every single one individually. Like And in fact, I still haven't bought in the entire set because I had all the individual, like I even went as far as like Redemption came out as an individual release. I had to get that. Best of Both Worlds came out as an individual release. I had to get that. But once again, that was because it was TNG. So I had to do it like that. And I got the original series, but my new thing is just getting everything on Blu-ray now, something
Everything
new gets
that's available.
Yeah. Something new that gets released, like Short Tracks or Discovery. I have to get that on Blu-ray. So like, I'm not going to wait around for a Discovery box set to come out.
Right.
If it does come out, I'm not going to get it. And just like I said, like I haven't gotten Next Generation box set, and I haven't gotten the Deep Space Nine one either, because I already have it.
Yeah. So I pick. So the reason that I picked up the Deep Space Nine one is because, so as happens when you get married and you buy a house, collections at times. Oh yes, and have a child. Collections at times end up needing to be purged in certain ways. So there was no way on earth that I was getting rid of my Deep Space Nine collection. However, I did make a compromise, and I allowed my wife to get some of those CD books, and we put all of the DVDs in the CD books and got rid of all the packaging. So for the last 4 years, my shelf has been these nice box sets and then this leather bound CD book with Deep Space Nine in it. So I was like, I got to get something that matches all the rest of this. So I was able to get a pretty good deal on eBay for the DVD set. And now I have a nice full box set collection on my shelf. I agree with you. When it comes to the newer stuff, I'm getting Steelbook all the way now. In fact, I am probably going to go out at some point and replace my Into Darkness and Beyond copies with Steelbooks, because I don't have those on Steelbook. And then I believe I will have everything that is available on Steelbook in that format. I have not taken the step of going 4K with the Kelvin movies, even though it's available. And I don't know. Maybe that'll happen someday, but right now I'm good with my Blu-rays.
Yeah, no, me too. I don't think I need to. It's funny that you're a big Steelbook guy, because I just can't get into the Steelbooks. And I think it's because in the past I've bought Steelbooks through Amazon or whatever, and I've just had such bad fortune with Steelbooks coming in through the mail. Either like I can
broken pieces on the inside.
Like I get. I think the last one I got was Hunt for Red October on Steelbook, and it looked like somebody stepped on it and put a big dent in it, and I can't put it back. So I've steered clear of the Steelbooks, and I know they display nice, but they just don't work for me, because I always seem to have bad situations happen with my Steelbooks when I order them.
The last two I've gotten have been through Amazon, but before that I was picking them up exclusively in store to avoid stuff like that. Like I'd do a pre-order through Best Buy and then just go pick it up the day it was released instead of having it delivered, again, for that reason. But with the pandemic, I went with Amazon, and I did not have any issues with those two, fortunately. But I've picked up a couple other things on Steelbook over the whole thing started by mistake. I was I only had Star Trek 09 on DVD, and I wanted to upgrade it to Blu-ray. So I think I was at Walmart or something, and I was looking to buy it, and the only copy that they had was Steelbook. So I was like, whatever, it's Blu-ray. And it comes with the digital copy, which was the other thing that I really wanted. Because I like to be able to download stuff like that to watch on planes and whatnot. So I picked it up. I was like, oh, this is really nice looking. And then Bill Smith got me turned on to it again when season 1 Discovery came out. And he was like, they're releasing it in Steelbook form too. It's going to be awesome. I'm like, I'll pick up the Steelbook. And I've just been hooked ever since. I think I got Back to the Future on Steelbook now. And again, it's just display, but I like it. So the last few things that I picked up were some Discovery Season 2 autographs. The first one was a dual signature card with Sonia Sohn and Kenrick Green as Michael Burnham's parents. So that's a dual autograph. And then the next two, so one of them is an inscription card. So Discovery Season 2 did a whole series of inscriptions for a few different actors. So I got one of the Bahia Wilsons, who played May Ahern. I got an inscription of that. I think it was under $10. And then I got Rob Brownstein as the keeper. So interesting story with this. So Rob Brownstein was one of the actors that they had do the Inscription series. He was under the impression when he was doing his signatures that every one of the cards that he was signing was going to have an inscription on it. And they ended up having to stop him because he had inscribed a few that he wasn't supposed to. So I was actually able to pick up one of the full bleed cards that he did an inscription on. There are only 10 to 25 of these out there right now. And it says, "Welcome back to Talos 4."
Oh, wow.
So I picked up one of those. I saw it was out there. I saw it was going cheap. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the seller or what, but they're not in certain circles. I just happened to find them when I was doing some searches. And I had like one person bidding against me. So I ended up getting it for like half price. So good deal there. But I always love something like that where there's a funny story that goes behind the card itself. We'd like to take a moment to talk about FanSets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury.
Did you know that it's been 5 years since FanSets has been providing us with their top-notch merchandise? It's hard to believe. But in that time, they've been providing us with offerings for all different types of fandoms, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, Harry Potter, and Rick and Morty.
But since the Divine Treasury is devoted to collectibles of Star Trek, we'll talk about their over 300 licensed pins that they've put out in those 5 years, from badges to Badgie to Microcrew to anniversary sets, which we talked about earlier. They release new pins on the 1st and the 15th of every month. And on the 15th of June, what became available but the top secret Section 31 badge pins. So if you are a lover of Section 31 or you're just collecting the badge series, go out and pick up one of those. On July 1st, if you did not pick up the full anniversary set, the Voyage Home 35th anniversary and the Undiscovered Country 30th anniversary will be available for purchase. And then the following month, on August 1st, Enterprise 20th anniversary and First Contact 25th anniversary pins will be available for purchase. And also right now, if you are a fan of the badge collection, you can pre-order the Strange New Worlds Command badge pin and magnet with a projected release date of mid-July. So this is the badge that was first seen in Discovery Season 2 and is going to be used through at least the beginning of Strange New Worlds. Now, the way Star Trek likes to change uniforms, you never know. But for now, this is the official Strange New Worlds badge.
You know, the nice thing about being a listener to this show is you receive 10% off your next order from FanSets just by using the code DIVINE. That's DIVINE at checkout. And also remember, if you put at least $30 or more of items in your cart, you receive free shipping in the US.
FanSets. Our pins have character. And we thank FanSets for being the presenting sponsor of the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. So on each episode of the Divine Treasury, we look for a collector of all things Star Trek, and we want to see what's gotten them into the hobby and what they have. So today is the first time that we are having a fan guest, if you will. And I guess Patrick qualifies as a fan because he interacts with us on Twitter all the time. But we've put out the notice to everybody that we would like to have all kinds of people on here to discuss their collections. And in our conversations on Twitter, we got Patrick Escudero to join us and discuss his Star Trek collection. So Patrick, welcome to the Divine Treasury.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm definitely a fan. I'm surprised you haven't blocked me on Twitter from the amount of times I mention you guys. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
You know, when we first got started with this on the network, Bill said to us, any exposure is good exposure. So I don't unless someone is bad mouthing us pretty regularly, we're probably not going to block them.
No, and I will say too, Patrick, I mean, I really enjoy our interactions. And like I've stated to you before, you know, I like doing things or interacting with people that actually appreciate what we do, because not all the critiques that we've gotten in the past few months have been positive. So it's always nice to interact with somebody who's positive and upbuilding and, you know, a fan of the show like we are.
No, I appreciate that. And I, as you can see behind me, and the people listening can't see, but I've got a fairly large collection of stuff behind me, and that's just the small part of it from what's in the house. And it probably was 4 or 5 episodes until when you guys were out there, and I started listening. And then one night I ended up binging probably 2 or 3 episodes in one night, just because some of the guests that you've had, like Alex Perry, who I know, and recently Haley Stoddard, who I know. I just love hearing people's collection, what gets them excited. You know, it's another area of Star Trek. You know, there's a lot of podcasts out there talking about episodes and news and specific series, but you're really the first for me that kind of focuses on an area that I've always loved, and that's kind of just collecting. And I know it's not everybody's thing, and some people have strong opinions about, you know, collecting and material things and all that, but it's a hobby that I enjoy. It's one that, you know, I've been able to share with my nephew, who's also become a Trekkie, and it's just, that's why I really enjoy listening to your guys' podcast. So again, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we do want to make sure that we give a shout out to Nathan, because I am sure that when he knows his uncle is on the podcast, he'll be listening. So he Nathan, knows. Hello.
I will make sure he listens to at least this part of it. But yeah, he knows. We actually talked about it yesterday. He was over at my house for the first time in about like a year because of the pandemic. And I was talking about the podcast because he knows you guys, and I will just say it for the listeners out there, graciously sent us 2 base sets of the Star Trek Picard trading cards, which we put in the binders yesterday and read, and we just, you know, it was part of our quote unquote Star Trek days that we have together. So that was a lot of fun. So he knows all about you guys. So
cool.
And is it nice, you know, the work that Jake did as well with the descriptions on the back of those cards? He did such a fine job. Another one of our listeners there.
Yeah, Jake Black. We've actually I actually just sent him out a set this week because if you can believe it, he did all the writing on the back of the cards, and there was some kind of mix up and he didn't get a set. So I had reached out to him a while ago and said, hey, you know what? You did all the work on this. Let's, you know, if you don't get a set, let me know and we'll send one off to you. So So he just got his, I think, yesterday. And he's actually going to come on the show at some point. Because he's got quite the collection as well.
So a funny story, I bought some smaller card binders, which I'm holding up to you guys, but I know the listeners can't see. And I didn't realize, but they are double-sided. So when you put the card in, you can't actually read the backs.
Oh, wow.
So what Nathan ended up doing, and it wasn't my idea, it was completely his, is he actually put the cards in backside up so that he could go back and read all the descriptions of stuff a lot more easily than having to pull it out. So I kind of went silly on these binders, but he was like, oh, I'm just going to put these, backside up so I can read all the information.
That's cool.
Well, I know one of the things I do. So before we started recording, we were talking about how Rittenhouse does do special binders for their sets, but they do get kind of pricey. And I mean, I'm not bad mouthing them at all because they are beautiful binders. But what I've done for some of the older sets that I've gotten is I'll go down to Walmart or Target and pick up a black 3-ring binder. And then if I have one of the foil packs that I'm not going to send in to get points to Rittenhouse for, I'll slide that in on the spine so that it displays what it is. And then at some point I print out what the set is, like a picture of what the set looked like. And I'll put that on the front because they've all got that open envelope, clear envelope on the front that you can do. It makes for a nice display. So there's a tip for you.
A couple of my other sets are in more generic binders. And what's kind of crazy is I also looked at the Star Trek Picard binder specifically on Rittenhouse's site. And I looked at some other kind of not high-end binders, but I went on Amazon and looked at kind of heavy-duty binders. They weren't that much cheaper, some of the 3-ring binders. They can get a little pricey. So I might still pick up the Picard binders at some point, but I'm happy with what we got right now. So
cool. Are you ready to do this?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's start, Patrick, with the question if there's anything outside of Star Trek that you collect.
There's not too much. There is, I'm a big fan of the band Foo Fighters. Have been for over 20 years now. So I have a number of collectibles, some autograph stuff, some vinyl releases that were special releases from some of their older albums. Even some photos with the band from 20 years ago when I was much younger. So that's, it's not, I'll necessarily collect it actively, but that's probably the most non-Star Trek stuff that I have kind of a small collection of and have it on display. One other thing, and you can kind of see me wearing it, I also collect golf hats. I'm wearing a TaylorMade hat, which is a golf company for those that don't play golf. I actually haven't really played much golf in the last couple of years, but I still kind of buy one TaylorMade hat a year. So I have a collection that is just kind of all over the place somewhere in the house and in the basement of probably 10, 12 years worth of random golf hats. So those are the only two really non-Star Trek things that I've picked up over the years in terms of just actively collecting a bit of.
So yeah, I am actually a big fan of the Foo Fighters.
Me too.
I do like their music, but I really like them, especially because they're huge Rush fans. So for those, for those of you who don't know,
Taylor loves Rush.
Both of them do.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins both love Rush. So, Rush is kind of another one of my subsets of my collecting that, I could talk for hours about, but love the Foo Fighters too.
And the subset of my collection is the other thing that you talked about. I don't necessarily do the golf hat thing, but I'll collect team hats. So I'm wearing a Phillies hat right now. I was wearing an Orioles hat earlier today. But I'm a Red Sox fan, so go figure. But I typically will pick up a hat for any city that I'm traveling to at one point or another, so that I can wear it around while I'm there and not get made fun of.
Yeah, and wearing a Phillies cap in Philly is definitely a good disguise. Like I wouldn't run around wearing a Red Sox cap in Philly. It's
probably not too bad with the Red Sox hat. If I wore a Patriots hat, then I'd really take it on the chin. But
definitely get some armor for yourself.
Yeah. No, I picked this up because one of the times I was traveling, I went to a Phillies game pre-COVID. So I got the shirt and the hat, and I think I even have a rain jacket because it was a night that we're expecting rain. So that's one of the other things I like to do is when I'm traveling for work. If it's a city I haven't been to the park, I'll go to a game.
Well, my nephew Nathan will appreciate that because he's a huge baseball fan, and he's a catcher. He just played his last game of the season on Friday.
I remember you saying that. That.
He was. In fact, that was. I will say, it was quite an epic game, even for 12-year-old little league. They were down 7-4 in the bottom of the final inning, and they were up to bat, and they won 8-7. It was quite the comeback.
Cool.
Nice. All right. So obviously, Patrick, we're on a Star Trek podcast. I see tons of cool stuff behind you. Love the Brent Spiner picture because I have the exact same one. 2 of them actually. And then I love the Enterprise D, but why don't you tell us about some of the Star Trek items you have in your collection?
Well, I kind of run the gamut of different stuff. I don't really focus too much on one thing, though I guess you can probably say that since you see them behind me is I do have a lot of Eaglemoss ships. That's the one that the one part of the collection that I've really been into the last 5 years probably. I wasn't aware of Eaglemoss until I was really more active on the Star Trek Twitter community, and then found them, and it was both the greatest and worst thing to ever happen because Hero Collector / Eaglemoss says they have a lot of my money, and I love their stuff, honestly. I didn't subscribe to the original collection, so from their original kind of Star Trek collection that they just finished up recently. After I think 180
episodes, 180 issues.
So I basically kind of cherry picked over the years of stuff that I like, ships that I like, whether they're unique or the hero ships, the various Enterprises, some of the XL ships. I did subscribe to the original Discovery collection, which is now finished up, and they've moved on to that Star Trek Universe collection for all the different new series. I don't have anything from the new series. I've held off on this habit as I've tried to save some money over the last year, just like a lot of other people. But that is the group that I have the most of. I do, as you guys know, I have some trading cards, not a ton, but some older stuff, some of the newer Rittenhouse stuff. I have the Discovery Season 1 set with a couple autograph cards. I have the set that they released for Star Trek Beyond, the set from Into Darkness. I don't really actively go out and I know, Jamie, you like kind of completing sets. I don't go out there really looking to complete, but I do kind of keep an eye on eBay every once in a while. If there's one card that maybe I'm interested in, like an autographed one or something like that, I will keep an eye out for those things. But I try to stay away from eBay because that's another rabbit hole where I will literally sit there for like hours looking for one thing. And then somehow looking at 40 other different things. And then my watch list ends up being like 80 pages long of stuff that most of which I will never look at again, but just decided in the moment to go put that on the watch list.
Oh yeah. No, I know exactly what that. I'm a big Eaglemoss guy too, obviously, as you know. But did you, so you didn't actually subscribe to the original one, right? You said you kind of cherry picked it.
Yeah, I in fact I didn't even know about them when the original collection started in 2013, I think. Once I found out about them and I was like, "Ooh, these are awesome." I just started going, "Okay, I'm going to buy, the TOS Enterprise and then the Enterprise D, and ooh, look at that XL model. I'm going to get that one now." And it kind of ballooned from there to I'm pretty sure I have over 40 or 50 from the original collection. But I did subscribe to the Discovery collection when that started.
So like I subscribed to the original collection, but what was driving me crazy was like, once I got to like 30 issues deep, they really started like skipping around. And I don't know if it's just because maybe they didn't have a good stock for some of the later episodes, but like me being the completist that I am, I was going ballistic because it was like, okay, I got issues 1 through 32. And then it was like, oh, I got issue 79. And then it was like, okay, issue 110. It was like they were skipping around. And so I kind of like paused that. And then I started doing the XLs. And I was doing the XLs and I got most of them. Still don't have the original series, which is issue 1. But then, of course, now with the Enterprise D build, I said, I'm going to pause both of those. And I have most of the XL ships now, but it's like that original series is driving me crazy because it's like just the bouncing around with the subscription. But
yeah, I had a similar issue a couple of times with the Discovery collection. And there was a lot fewer issues in that collection than there was the original set. But my only, I understand if there's like constraints on supply. But what I would have liked was maybe more notice that, hey, you're not going to get issue 10, you're going to get issue 12, and then we're going to go back and get that one to you. They kind of just get sent when they get sent, and I would randomly get an email that said, hey, this thing has been shipped to you. If it was the right issue in order, yay. If not, I was like, okay, I guess maybe I'll get that other one at some point. So I had that happen a few times, and it is a little bit disappointing. And I think if there was a little more communication, it wouldn't be so bad. I wouldn't have been kind of so annoyed by it at the time. But it didn't make me quit it. But I did question, like, should I just keep going? There's a lot of ships that I may not like, but I did end up completing the whole collection for that one.
Yeah. I've done a lot of what you were talking about, Patrick. Is I'll pick up the ones that I want, because at this point, I mean, it is, are you paying more than you would if you were in the subscription? A little bit, but I mean, I don't necessarily want to have, the Hirogen ship, or the Klingon Bird of Prey that was in Heart of Glory season 1 TNG. I don't really care. Of course, now that I think about it, it was the Batress in Heart of Glory. It was not a bird of prey. It was a freighter. So yeah, I'm not necessarily interested in that. I'm interested in the hero ships from each of the series. So I discontinued my collection, and I just started picking them up one by one as to what I wanted. So
yeah, that's what I'm going to do with the universe, or the Star Trek Universe collection they just released. I know there's going to be a lot of ships, and there were in the Discovery collection. Like I enjoy some of the new Klingon designs, but honestly, I didn't really need every single one of those. And there were probably 4 variations of the Section 31 ships from season 2.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they kind of all look the same, except missing a couple nacelles or adding a couple nacelles. So yeah, I'm definitely going to pick and choose again. I'm not going to do another subscription probably.
So at some point, so Jamie, did you get the regular one station, or did we just talk about that?
We just talked about, I haven't gotten that yet. So like right now I have my XL subscription like on pause and my original on pause because I have the 3 subscriptions, I get a discount. So that's why I kind of do it. I'm doing my Enterprise D obviously, but I still get the special editions as they come in. I get those ones in. But yeah, that regular one station has not come yet. I got the space dock, I believe was the last special edition that I got.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that you're going to get the regular one, and then they'll re-release it upside down from Starfleet space dock in motion picture, because it's the same thing, just flipped on end. So yeah, that goes along with what you were saying about those Section 31 ships.
Yeah, and I guess there's a slight variation from DS9 of that same station as well. So maybe they'll release that one. I get it. They're trying to fill in the collection, especially the Discovery collection, which was a little smaller. And I feel like they stretched that a little bit. But they're nice models. They are probably some of the best in terms of accuracy that Eaglemoss has done, because they got the full CGI renders of them and stuff, where I know with some of the older stuff from the original collections, I know they've said in like interviews and stuff that it was hard to kind of recreate some of them without some of the original detailed files. So I give them credit for how great the Discovery collection looks. I kind of wish they were the same size as the original collection, that smaller size, because they're about like $15 more expensive because of they're bigger. And that's one of the reasons too that I'm definitely not going to subscribe to the Universe collection at this point, because
and then it becomes harder. It becomes harder to display too. It's like
I'm not
running out of room.
The Discovery collection is the reason why these shelves behind me are just like overflowed, because they're actually, you can't see them. They're on a lower shelf behind me, but whereas I can fit like 20 to 25 of the smaller ones, I can fit like maybe 10 of the bigger Discovery ones. So it takes up a lot of space. But yeah, I guess, sorry, I got stuck on Eaglemoss a little bit there, but some of the other stuff.
All good.
Some of the other stuff that I collect a lot of are model kits, which you can see some of that behind me. I like to think of myself as the king of unfinished models, because there is the large 1/350 scale TOS Enterprise sitting behind me that I built in 2013, and it still is not completely painted in decal, but it's just sitting there. Oh, and that's Mike is showing me a one nacelled Enterprise.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't feel bad, because mine is in worse shape than yours.
But yeah, I tend to, I like the assembly, but I'm not great at painting. So that's the part where I start slowing down, and then all of a sudden it's 3 weeks later and it's just kind of sitting on the shelf.
It's like, I'm like OCD and ADD and all this other stuff. So like, I'm the same way. Anytime I would buy a model kit, it was like, I did not have the patience to paint a piece, let it sit for, I couldn't do that. And that's why I love this Enterprise D build, because it's already painted. It's like, I just got to put it together. That's it. Yeah. That's it. I know the feeling, because I can't wait. And I can't do the patience thing. Like your father, Mike, with his model collection. I can't do that.
And part of it's skill for me, because I just am not very skilled when it comes to spray painting. I've been building the Enterprise from Discovery. It's a 1/1000 scale kit. It's actually not in this room, but that I've made a lot of progress on. That I will unveil to the world again pretty soon. I had posted some photos on my Twitter like a month or so ago of my progress, but that's actually I'm happy with the paint job so far. I've done some detail painting. That one's going to probably get finished way before this big TOS Enterprise behind me ever gets completed. Plus there's a couple stacks of boxes of model kits from over the years. I've got everything from like a Romulan Warbird model kit to the Franklin from Beyond. Just if it's made by Polar Lights, which is one of the big Star Trek licensees, I probably have at least one of them sitting somewhere in a box, or it's half built somewhere. So that's kind of one of my random collections.
Yeah, Jamie mentioned my dad. So my dad took a year working on the large TOS Enterprise from Polar Lights. Thing is massive, but he made sure, he went through this painstaking detail. And this is my father's personality too, is, he went out online and he researched all the paints. And if he couldn't buy the paint, he would find places that told you what the mix ratio was. Mm-hmm. Then he purchased the light kit for it, and then realized, well, there are people who have done some alternate ones out there that are really cool. So then he picked up like some LEDs for the nacelles to make them light up. And then he said, ooh, and you know what? Since I've got power running, I could put a soundboard in it and have it make sounds. So he did all of this stuff. It took him like probably more than a year. I'd say probably like a year and a half to get the whole thing done. But now it's done, and he displays it in his office.
So I saw the photo that you posted of that, and please, from one modeler to another, tell him it looks fantastic. Because I saw that image you posted. I guess it was like a top-down shot of it. The paint looks great, and that's the debate on like what the original color of both the TOS Enterprise and the refit with from especially from TMP, where it was all shiny, is like the most hotly debated modeler topic on the planet for sci-fi Star Trek modelers. So I've read probably over the years, like a million different forum threads, tons of people. I've seen probably 100 different variations of people building these things. So it's not easy. It is not easy. So hats off to your father for such like dedication to that. And honestly, what you get at the end result, it just looks so good that like I'm sure he looks over at it wherever it's displayed now. And it's just like, yeah, that's awesome. And that's kind of what draws me to model kits. Like eventually I want to get to that place, but I'm just not there yet.
It's so close to his heart. It literally sits next to him on his desk at work.
I would, yeah. If I ever finished my big enterprise too, that would. I mean, even it's in its unfinished state, it still sits behind me prominently on the shelf. Even though it literally has like no detailing, no. Well, some paint, but
yep.
Yeah. So there's some other miscellaneous things in my collection. I've the Mega Blocks kits from the 50th anniversary. I have a number of those, including the really big TOS Enterprise. Which was a gift from my family back in 2016. I've got, Star Trek Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit. I guess I kind of count photo ops as part of my collection. I've got a lot of Star Trek Discovery photo ops from my first STLV in 2019 or 2018. Just some other miscellaneous stuff like that. I don't know if you see behind me, there's a Playmates Enterprise D sitting on the floor. That is because I owned that when I was a kid, and I found it on eBay a couple of years ago for fairly cheap. The sounds work, but the lights don't. But it's still kind of nice to have. It's something that I had years ago, which I really have no idea what happened to my original. I swear there's a bunch of Playmates toys in a Tupperware container in my dad's basement somewhere, but that basement is just kind of a disaster. So someday there will be like an excavation where somebody finds a bunch of like Playmates action figures from the 90s in a like a back corner of this basement. So I'm waiting for that to.
I loved those Playmates action figures. And it's funny because the bridge play set, I mean, I remember having that as a kid, and I mean, that thing got more use than probably any other toy in my collection. Just, I would put all sorts of, like I would even use Q in the captain's uniform to like sub out for Patrick, for Picard every once in a while. But so I had a flood at my house years ago, and that my original bridge set got wiped out. But when my son was growing up, I got him a play set. Well, guess where that play set is now? It's downstairs because he's moved on to other things. But I said, oh, I'll put it in my room. So, because I'll appreciate more than he will as he gets older.
Yeah, when I had the transporter when I was young, and the shuttlecraft Goddard, those were the two that I remember having, that I used to put all the figures in. And a buddy of mine in middle school, who was kind of the only other Star Trek fan, and he was sort of the person that got me into it a little bit. I would go over to his house with that Tupperware container of Playmates action figures, and he had his own set of action figures, and we would just sit in his basement and play for like hours. So that was my early 90s nerding out.
So going along with that then, Patrick, you seem like you're probably right around the same age as Jamie and I. So is there something from around your childhood that got you into collecting Star Trek stuff, like an episode or one of the movies where you looked at it and you said, I need to own a piece of this for myself?
I was thinking about this one pretty hard, and TNG was my original Star Trek, and that's what got me into the franchise. That's what drove me to the Playmates figures originally. But I wouldn't say at that point when I was young I was really collecting anything. Actually, collecting Star Trek stuff probably didn't happen until maybe about 15 or so years ago. And it was probably right after Enterprise, maybe a little bit before the Kelvin Timeline movies. And I started getting back into it. And then 2009 came out and I really got into it. And that kind of kicked off, I guess I would say, my resurgence into the fandom. And from that point forward, knowing that I was an adult with some, income that I could use towards whatever I really wanted, I started randomly just picking up Star Trek stuff. some training cards here and there. The 2009 movie that they released that Enterprise Playmates had the license for it, I guess, for the 2009 movie. I picked up like the Enterprise. I still have that on display actually. And it kind of started blooming from there. And then really, I feel like Trek Twitter in like 2016, 17, kind of from that point until now, my collection has exploded, especially with Eaglemoss ships. I was always into models. That was something that I definitely did throughout the late 2000s into 2010, 11. I stopped for a couple of years, but got back into it, especially when Nathan started getting into Star Trek. It was one of the hobbies that we've sat, on my kitchen table and built some models together over the last couple of years. So I wouldn't say there's really like one thing that got me into collecting. Definitely TNG was my beginning love of Trek. Definitely why I bought all the Playmates figures that I had back then. But it was just kind of that resurgence of my fandom in the late 2000s throughout the beginning of like Discovery, where I started going, ooh, I have a little extra money. Maybe I'll throw that at a couple Eaglemoss Starships, and then that became this, that, and the other thing. And I don't really focus on one outside of maybe the Eaglemoss stuff, but it's just kind of whatever piques my interest. I have a lot of FanSet pins as well, which I didn't mention previously. They've got a lot of great pins, and I have a whole book of from Discovery, from some of the Kelvin timelines, a few Lower Decks ones now. So
Jamie has said that I'm to blame for him getting into FanSets, but also then cards as well, because
well, I was a big card guy, but like I knew that if I delved into the autograph cards stuff, that it would be a dark, dangerous road for me. Because I'm big into autographs. I mean, I'll show you once we're done recording, what my room looks like. But, I'm big into like the 8x10 autographs and stuff like that. And I knew if I started going down that road, it was not going to be good. Because I had autograph sports cards and stuff growing up and things like that. But yeah, once I went down that road, yeah, it was bad. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you were standing on the precipice and I just pushed you over the edge.
Yeah.
Now let's take some time to talk about our friends at Science Division. And they've made the world's first interactive tribble that you can control with your smartphone.
We talk about Science Division during every episode, and we've even featured Jay and Kaylia with their collection and their business too. And as you know, they've put in the time and attention to detail that you would expect from this fantastic product, right down to the tribble fur.
When you download the Section K7 app, you can name your tribble, you can assign it to a ship, and you can even put it into different modes, such as at ease, on duty, and the watchdog mode, which prevents people from stealing it, like a co-host, or in my case, me stealing it from my child. But we know that in the end,
tribbles are not dangerous.
But they have more at the Science Division website than just tribbles. You can get Science Division gear and a coffee mug. You can also get an awesome tote to fill up your merchandise when you head out to the conventions again. And as an exclusive for our listeners, you can receive $5 off your very own tribble when you use the code Cyrano. That's CYRANO at checkout.
Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun, and we thank our friends at Science Division for sponsoring this week's show.
All right, so Patrick, I know we've kind of talked about a lot of different things, but when you think about today and where you're at, is there something really specific that you end up focusing on? I know, like I said, I know you kind of touched on a lot of things, but what's the focus of your collecting right now?
Right now, I would say it's closed. It's slowed down my collecting. I still tend to focus a little bit on the Eaglemoss ships. That's always, if I had to put like a priority on the stuff that I get. If I see like an Eaglemoss ship that I really, really want, I put that above pretty much anything else that might be in my queue to order. And then model kits are always a draw, whether they ever get built or not. And I know I have my eye on Polar Lights is releasing a 1/1000 scale USS Voyager kit. And I am in the middle of my first ever full watch of Voyager. It's the one series that I really haven't seen or hadn't seen a lot of the episodes from previously out of all of them. So now I'm all on a Voyager kit. So now I see like, oh, they're releasing a new model kit for Voyager. I'm definitely buying that. And I promise to probably not paint it or decal it for a very long time. But model kits and Eaglemoss are definitely always on the top of my list when it comes to prioritizing my collections. And then FanSets is usually up there in the top 5 because they'll release a few things where I'm like, I'm not really interested in that pin or this pin. But then they come out with some collection or new collection where I'm like, okay, I really want like 4 of those things. So most recently was, Badgie from Lower Decks and the Cerritos pin and the magnetic Delta badges, which I also got one for Nathan. So FanSets will like kind of appear on my radar. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy like 5 things from you guys. And then it'll disappear for a little bit. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, I'm like, oh man, they're releasing something really, really awesome that I want. So those are probably my top 3, I would say, in terms of my prioritization.
So I know you said that you try to stay away from eBay as best you can. And I know exactly what you're talking about. As you were saying, your watch list ends up really long. I currently have 109 things on my watch list. So now something that Jamie and I have run into a lot. And it started out specifically thinking about eBay, but then I realized that flea markets do this, antique places do this, where they put a number of different things into what they call a lot. And then if there's one thing in there that you see, you got to buy the whole thing. So A, if you ever gotten yourself into a situation like that, and then B, if you did, and there were things in there that you already had, did you find yourself just buying it anyway?
Only 1 or 2 times that I think I can recall, and it was eBay related. The one that was more recent, maybe 2 years ago, is I was on the lookout for another one of the Playmates 2009 Enterprise ships that they released, and they sort of became a little bit rare for a while there. They were going for a pretty hefty price on eBay. I remember they were getting up to like $80, $90 for one new in box, and it's really like a $20 toy. And I found a seller that was also selling a bunch of the Playmates figures from that collection as part of and also including the Enterprise as part of it. And I didn't really want the Playmates figures. I had 1 or 2, I think, in my collection already. But I was like, all right, because the price, because of course I'm doing all the math. I'm like, okay, if this was all separated out, how much will all this be worth? Is it really worth it for me to just get all these and deal with it and maybe resell them, knowing in my brain that I would never actually resell anything, which is exactly what happened, because they're sitting upstairs in a probably the original eBay box that they came in right now in my spare bedroom, also known as Star Trek Collectibles Cemetery Land. So yeah, that's one instance where I got into I didn't really want all that stuff, but it's in a lot, and the price was too good to pass up overall, because I honestly could have found another seller at the same time selling that Playmates Enterprise ship for the same price as this entire lot of the ship and these figures. And I'm like, well, just do it. It's fine. You can feel bad about yourself later after the box arrives. So I have some Playmates figures still in box, brand new. But I didn't love them. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of the look and the sculpt of some of those 2009 figures.
Now, those were the ones where it seemed like most of the characters were in like the red Starfleet Academy uniforms. Am I correct?
Yeah, I have a few that are in the McCoy's in the Academy uniform.
Right,
so
right.
I don't have a McCoy that's like not in that, which I didn't understand the reasoning for releasing some of them like that. And also, I feel like their body sculpts are like too big for the head, so they look a little bit bizarre.
Very much so. Yep.
especially compared to the 90s Playmates toys, where I'm like, if you had just made them look exactly like that, except for the new Kelvin timeline stuff, I probably would have bought like multiples of every one of them. But I just never really liked the sculpt. But again, it was this thing was all in a lot together, and it just wasn't. I couldn't pass up the price.
And this is what we collectors do. We nitpick about the sculpt of a figure, and yet, that's the kind of thing that people are looking for in their collections.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
So, Patrick, what's your thoughts on the X06? Have you seen any of the pictures of that stuff? Or
I think you're reading my mind, because that was actually in the notes that I wrote down here for this episode with you guys. I literally wrote down, I'm very much eyeing up the X06 captain's figures because I wanted to mention that they look. I mean, the Picard looks amazing,
exquisite. Yeah.
The Data looked amazing. The price does not look amazing. I'm struggling with that, but like a Jonathan Archer at that scale, with I'm assuming is going to be a very accurate face sculpt and just amazing Enterprise uniform. That's the one. That and maybe Cisco are probably going to be the one or two that I'm gonna have to like. Maybe I'll just put it on my Amazon wish list or something and say, hey, for Christmas, guys, just get me this figure. I'm 40, but just buy me this figure.
You know what's weird though is I'm wondering, and not that I love Scott Bakula, obviously one of the nicest people I've ever met on the planet, but I hear he's very particular with like pictures, like models of him for some reason. So I'm interested to see in how he feels about whatever, if they decide to do a captain's model of him, because I've seen like some of the art for him sometimes doesn't come out because he, says no way,
poo-poos it.
Yeah, poo-poos it and says I don't want that to go out. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he's gonna react to that, and even Avery Brooks, with how he is right now too, So, but I mean, if it's anything like what we've seen, it's gonna be hard for them really to say no. I would think at this point.
Yeah, if it looks anywhere as good as the card and Data, if it does, I know it's only been a teaser so far where they just kind of showed parts of the uniform in that one photo that they released for the other captains, but that's going to be a hard one. The Archer, especially for me, I just did a rewatch of Enterprise back in January and February. It's one of my favorite series, and I love Scott Bakula, so it's going to be a tough one. That's going to be me biting the bullet on that price. But it will look so great on that shelf next to that unfinished Enterprise behind me.
That's so good. That's so good. So one of the things that we talked about a little bit already, and you, I don't want to say are very vocal about, but you express quite a bit on your Twitter timeline, is the relationship that you have with your nephew, Nathan. And I'm just wondering how collecting has started to factor into that as you've introduced him to Star Trek. I know you were just telling us before that you guys went through the Picard cards the other day together. So how does that relationship now work together with the collecting side of things for you?
It cost me more money. That's the short answer, but no, it really has affected my collecting over the last couple of years. He's about 3 years into kind of being a Star Trek fan. He's known about it longer because, he's known pretty much from the time he could speak and understand anything, he's known that I'm a big Star Trek nerd. And so that's how I started him and finally got him hooked over the last couple of years. So what has ended up happening with my own collecting is if I see something, I will immediately think to myself, is this something that would be great for Nathan's birthday, for Christmas, for something, that we're doing? Whether it's, he has a number of Eaglemoss ships from me. For his birthday, I just recently, his birthday was on May 6th, turned 12, which just makes me feel really old. But I gifted him like an Eaglemoss XL Enterprise E because he cites that as one of his favorite ships in Star Trek. So I pretty much will look and sometimes buy two of something. There's been times with the Eaglemoss Hero Collector ship books. I'll buy two, give one to Nathan, keep one for myself. In fact, I think it was maybe a year, it was before the pandemic, so like probably late 2019, I gifted him the Enterprise, the original Enterprise A Eaglemoss book, that illustrated guide. And I took a picture of him and I posted it online, and Ben Robinson from Eaglemoss commented and said, some nice words. And that was kind of awesome. But yeah, so when it comes to my own collecting, a lot of times I will go, oh, hey, I like this thing, but is this also something that I might be interested in getting Nathan down the line? Whether it's something like trading cards, Eaglemoss ships, definitely. He doesn't have anywhere near as many as I do, but he's got a few on display. And then things like some of the if you remember the Creo, they're kind of like Legos, but they did the Kelvin timeline stuff. They had like the Enterprise, and I think it was like a Christmas or 2 Christmases ago, I got him. There was a combo pack of Bird of Prey that wasn't even in the movie, and the Kelvin timeline Enterprise. Like I got him, that combo Creo pack, and a lot of the stuff I've ended up finding on eBay. That's the other thing too, is because he is a TOS fan. He even reiterated it to me yesterday. He's like, Rathacon is his favorite movie. TOS is his favorite series. This kid has a picture, that I gifted him, but a framed photo of Spock, Leonard Nimoy in the movie series outfit, the Monster Maroon, hanging up on his wall, like literally next to like his baseball stuff and other sports things. So Doomsday Machine is his favorite episode. So a lot of that older stuff, I kind of have to maybe go to eBay and look a little bit. And I've definitely purchased a number of things from over the years just by scouring eBay. I 2 years ago, I found that Playmates Enterprise B from the mid 90s from Generations. That ended up being a birthday gift for him when he was getting into it, because he enjoyed Generations because of the beginning with Kirk and Scotty and Chekhov. So yeah, that's my collecting has definitely changed a little bit. Because I want to include them whenever I can, whether it's I buy 2 of the same model kit and we put them together, which we've done a couple of times, or if it's something where I go, ooh, that'll be a cool, birthday gift or a cool Christmas gift.
He's got some good taste from what you're telling me here. So if Doomsday Machine is his favorite episode, have you gotten him the FanSets pin of the Doomsday Machine?
I haven't gotten him the FanSets pin, but I did get him the Eaglemoss Doomsday Machine.
I was just going to ask
that was going to be my next question.
The Eaglemoss
He has
light up thing.
Yes,
Dave, we're contractually obligated to ask the FanSets question first.
Gotcha. No, I haven't gotten him that one. He doesn't have too many pins. I bought him a lot of magnetic badges, so he has a couple FanSets magnetic badges. Including the lower decks one, especially, is probably the most recent. But yeah, it's also funny too, is he's not super into collecting anything. That's kind of not his thing, really. It's definitely, collecting is definitely more my thing. He he's all this stuff on display, and he likes Legos and things like that. So some of the Legos and the Mega Blocks have been nice gifts for him, but yeah, he's definitely into collecting less. And I don't know, he's 12, so how kids are. Some of us know how kids are, but
I have a 12-year-old, so
he's into Minecraft. He's into Roblox with his friends. There aren't, and this is the disappointing thing, because I was hoping once he hit middle school, which he did this year, that he would find somebody that was a Star Trek fan also. But there aren't a lot out there, and I think that kind of keeps him from going into that. He loves hanging out with me. We watch a lot of Star Trek. He'll watch like Lower Decks on his own and some other stuff randomly, but he hasn't really connected with anybody his age that likes Star Trek. And I really wish there were, and I'm hoping Prodigy helps with this, not to bring in like this other stuff randomly. I know we're talking about collectibles, but I'm hoping Prodigy will bring in a new generation that maybe he can help him connect with some more people his age that are fans of the shows.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Same thing with my daughter. She's been into Star Trek, and she's I wouldn't say she's veering off of that, but she's she's kind of divided her allegiances all over the place. She's into, she's always been into Minecraft, but she's into Star Wars. She's into Star Trek. She's really getting into music now. And I know the same thing is true for Jamie's son as well. It's just that age group.
Yeah, no, Blake's definitely he definitely was into Star Trek more when he was younger. It's now that he's 11 and he's kind of in middle school, and he's really into guitar right now. Like that's like everything is centered around what can I get my next, musical instrument piece or amp or whatever it is. That's like his whole focus now. So he still likes to watch Star Trek with me. And I mean, we have so many great memories that we've had over the years of going to Las Vegas and things like that. But, he's just going through a different phase of his life where, other things are more important. And even from a collecting standpoint, he's not into collecting like he used to. It's like, it's all about, I got to get my next amp, or I got to get my next guitar, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I did the same thing when I was young. You jump from one thing to another, and then you'll settle into a few things. Maybe that'll be Star Trek for Nathan. So, maybe he'll become a crazy super fan like I am. I mean, he has encyclopedic knowledge of a lot of Star Trek right now. So it's kind of crazy. If you talk to him about it, it just like, he will go off and just start talking about all sorts of crazy stuff that even I've forgotten most of. But yeah, he's into these Minecraft. His friends are into Minecraft and Roblox and all this other stuff. He's in the band. He plays drums. He's been doing that for a couple of years now.
Oh boy!
And so I will say, because I am the proud uncle here, his band teacher this past year said to my sister, his mom, that like he's showing signs of being like really, really good if he sticks with it going into like, middle school and high school. So they actually ended up buying him like a pretty expensive kit that I guess it's one of those where it works through the headphones. So it's not a for real drum kit that's going to make the neighbors.
Yeah. It's electronic, probably electronic drum set.
Yeah. So he's got a concert in a couple of weeks. But yeah, he's really big into drumming now, so that takes up a lot of his after school time. He's huge sports fan, just like his dad. Big into baseball. He just finished his season on Friday, so he's going to go to baseball camp. He'll have fall baseball. They wanted him to try out for the tournament team this summer, but he was kind of like, I would like to have a summer because he knows his mom's going to be home, so he can be in the pool all day. So he didn't do the tournament team thing, but they were kind of, I think they expected that he would be on the team if he wanted to just go through the formality of the tryouts. So he's like multi-talented. He's got like an eidetic memory. I mean, there's stuff that he remembers that I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think I killed all those brain cells years ago.
Good for his parents that he didn't go for the tournament teams, because I've heard that those are primo dollars.
That I was talking to my sister about it the other night at his game, and it's like every weekend, just another place in the area that could be up to like an hour or 2 hours or more away that you're kind of spending a lot of time doing that.
We've come to the section of our program where we delve into the awards, and these are the awards as selected by our guest. So our first award is the Kivas Fajo Award. So tell me, Patrick, what is the top thing that you would love to have in your collection, but you either just haven't pulled the trigger on or you just can't find it?
So I think Mike, your dad will understand me on this one, but it's a model kit. It is the 1/350 scale refit Enterprise, which makes it about 34 inches long. It's huge. And the paint job on this ship from the motion picture is super complicated. Debated online about there's like 5 different colors. It shimmers. It's amazing looking when you see it on screen. And people have been trying to recreate that through model kits for years and years and years. And there's a lot of people that do a really great job. I'm just not skilled enough for that. I literally have this model kit sitting in my collection, but I haven't built it. I don't want to do you can do the decals to kind of recreate the look, but the real people, the real hardcore modelers do the full paint. They mask every bit of it off. They paint the first color, remask, paint the second color, and so on and so forth. And it's just it's an undertaking that I would not be able to. I'm just not skilled enough on, to be honest. So to have that fully lit, full paint job, just sitting on my shelf, shimmering in the light, I would love that. That is the one collectible that I would love to have someday. But to get it professionally built, which is an option because there are a lot of modelers out there that do that, it is not cheap at all. So someday that may be the model you see sitting behind me, because I hope to eventually be able to do that. That is my most elusive.
And the model itself isn't cheap, because I was with my dad when he picked it up.
No.
So yeah, the model's not cheap. All the stuff that goes into it isn't cheap. And then, I was going to say, I've seen the guys online that do, the job that they do on these things is incredible. But yeah, I can just imagine what it costs to have them do it professionally for you.
Yeah, because as accurate as the model kit right out of the box is, with hardcore modelers, that's just not enough. It's not 100% accurate. So there's always replacement parts. There's the lighting kits, and just everything you can possibly imagine to add on to that original cost. And they're unbelievably skilled. I have probably watched 100 videos of people building this thing. It's the same kit, but I will sit there and stare every time that I come across one of these, because I'm just so fascinated and so impressed with the level of skill that these folks have.
Yeah, and we actually saw not too long ago that Polar Lights is going to start releasing the models where it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, you enjoy the assembly part of it, but not all the detail work. They're going to be releasing kits now that have all the detail work put into it, and you just assemble. Kind of like almost like the Enterprise D build that Jamie's doing through Eaglemoss. So I'm wondering how accurate all of that is going to be to what these pros do, or if they consulted with these pros to get it right.
I saw it. So the original series Enterprise is the big one, the one like your dad has, is the first one, and I think it's pretty close to being released. I actually just saw kind of more of a preview of it a couple of weeks ago. It comes in a huge box. It's 5 pieces that you it's almost like a snap kit.
Okay.
Snap. It's like the nacelles are pre-built with the pylons, the saucer's pre-built,
Gotcha.
and then you just kind of snap it all together. And I guess they've modified the kit in a way that you don't need any glue or anything. It'll snap into place, and then that's like, you can't take it apart again. It looks really accurate from a paint job perspective. Like it looked really good. But there's no lighting, so they didn't do any lighting on the kit.
Oh, okay.
And I think it runs somewhere in the $400 range for that. Yeah.
No, thanks.
Yeah. So it looks great from what I've seen, but it's still a little bit pricey. They did a Discovery one as well, which is a lot smaller. It's like a 1x2500 scale, pre-painted. That looked great as well. But again, for something that was, I think that thing's like 12, 13 inches long, they charged about $115 for it. So it's like that one I would probably tackle on my own rather than, buying a pre-built one. But yeah, with the big ones though, I would be interested in seeing if they are willing to do that for the refit Enterprise, because that's a lot more complicated of a paint job than the TOS Enterprise has a lot of gray. They did, a lot of the weathering and stuff as well to it, which looks great. But that refit paint job I can imagine they would maybe charge another $400 just to do that. So
yeah,
we'll see.
All right. So that brings us to the Grand Nagus Award. So this would be the most valuable item in your collection. So what takes that place, Patrick?
So in thinking about this question, I wandered around the house, including things that I have in boxes, trying to figure out what might be the most valuable thing I have. And it turns out, I believe, it is a very weird well, for me, it seems weird that this is the most valuable. It is the 2016 Star Trek Encyclopedia re-release update.
Oh, yes.
That I now see going on eBay for anywhere from $700 to $1,000 for like a new copy of it. Because I've looked into it over the years to buy one for Nathan for like a birthday gift, because this kid loves like just facts and information. So I know he would enjoy that, but they're out of print. They only did like one printing of them.
Yeah. I actually have one. I have a set of them.
So I have a set myself.
No.
But yeah, that I think is actually the most. I could probably resell that for a pretty good amount of money, especially considering how good of a condition it's in. Because I don't collect too much that's expensive. You know, some of these model kits and stuff, like we were talking about, like that Refit Enterprise is, you know, like $130 model kit just in the box. But yeah, that encyclopedia is probably my most valuable item, and it just kind of sits on the bottom shelf that I can see from my desk, and I feel like I should put it behind glass at this point.
What's funny with that encyclopedia is I almost like, I have it just sitting on my shelf. I'm almost like scared to open it half the time. Like I always end up like grabbing the older versions if I'm like looking to do some quick reference thing, because it's like so nice, and like it's mine's probably in fairly good shape too.
It's like you need to put it under glass.
Yeah. The box, the little box case that it comes in, and the two hardcovers, it's really a nice. It's also super heavy. I mean, that thing. I mean, that's the weapon I'm going for if anyone ever breaks in here, because that will defend me pretty well. But yeah, that was it. And I also love it because it was a gift from my dad back in like 2016. Now he knew I wanted it because it was one of the things I said I wanted, but still, it was a nice gift. It was pretty expensive at the time, but yeah, every time I looked for it on eBay the last couple of years, I'm just like, I'm amazed how much people are charging for it.
Yeah, I've looked for it myself and seen that. That's why as soon as you said it, I was like, oh man, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. All right, so how about the Resican Flute Award? What is the collectible that you have that holds the most sentimental value to you?
Well, I think other people have gone this path before, but for me, especially in the last couple of years, and with Nathan and with my dad, it's been some of the experiences we've had. You know, some of the photo ops. They had my dad and my nephew actually have a photo op with Anson mount that is probably the most prominently displayed photo op that I have in my living room. And I think I've shared that on Twitter multiple times before. And we've done a few things together. Back in 2018, we went to the Star Trek set tour in New York. And I'm sure people listening to this are familiar. It's the rebuilt TOS Enterprise set up in Ticonderoga, New York. It's amazingly accurate. We took a tour with Karl Urban. It's one of my nephew's kind of earliest Star Trek experiences. He had just really gotten into it that summer, and we went in August to that. I took him up there with my dad. And we weren't able to take pictures during the tour because Karl Urban was there, and I guess we weren't really allowed to. But I had this one mental picture in my mind where on the engineering set of the Enterprise, Karl Urban is like very close to my nephew, away from the rest of the crowd that we were with. And I just had this picture of like the tour guide and talking about the set and all that, and just like Karl Urban and my nephew right there. And then when we finally got to kind of meet Karl and get an autograph, he high-fived him, and he was chatting him up for a couple minutes, more than, some of the other adults that were going through. So it was such a positive experience. And I love having those experiences with Nathan. And I'm hoping post-COVID that we can, I'm hoping that we can maybe go to the convention that Creation is doing in New Jersey this year. It still happens in September. That remains to be seen, but I put a lot of value into experiences as I get older. If you had asked me maybe 5-6 years ago, I probably would have picked some random item that I have in my collection. But it's definitely the experiences. And that also includes my own experiences at STLV, where I've met a lot of good people. I have photo ops with a few Discovery folks, and some, in fact, Haley Stoddard and I have two photo ops together, one with Mary Wiseman and one with Anthony Rapp, that's in my collection. And those are the things that when I think about them, they always bring a smile to my face, more than maybe looking through trading cards or looking at model kits. So maybe it's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but definitely my experiences, and especially those with Nathan.
Well, and you've got that awesome experience with Anson Mount that I thought you were going to mention.
Oh, see, I've mentioned it so many times that I feel like it's a broken record. But for those that don't know, Nathan and I, for the last couple of years, as he's gotten into Star Trek, we do what we called Star Trek Days. I should have trademarked this before, CBS started doing an actual Star Trek day. But we get together, we watch Star Trek. We watch episodes. I usually have a theme behind it of some kind because I'm crazy and I like writing agendas. We'll build model kits. We'll have fast food. We'll talk about life, then we'll, intersperse that with episodes. And we usually end the day with a movie of some kind. We'll watch, pretty much anything that maybe we haven't seen in a while. Star Trek movie. And yesterday was our first in-person in over a year. And we watched Wrath of Khan because that's Nathan's favorite with my dad who stopped by for dinner. And that was, when I say experiences after everything that's happened in the last year, that made me so happy just having them both over at this. They hadn't been over at my house together at the same time since February 2020. So to have them kind of just sitting on my couch and we're all watching Wrath of Khan, and my dad apparently didn't remember seeing this before, even though I know he has. And so Nathan's explaining it to him like in detail because the kid remembers everything. So he just, any minutia of the movie, he's like, well, this is happening, and Preston is Scotty's nephew. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, the Anson Mount story is during one of our Star Trek days, they got moved to Zoom. We started doing them over Zoom. He'd have CBS All Access up and I'd have it up, and we'd just sync up and watch TV, episodes and movies and stuff. And for his birthday last year, we were all in quarantine, like really hard quarantine, May 2020. So nobody was going anywhere. He was turning 11. Anson randomly posted on Facebook just hey, I'll crash some of your Zoom meetings if you want, to his Facebook. And I reached out through the email it was through his a podcast email. And I just said, hey, my nephew and I do this. We've already done like 2 or 3 of these Star Trek days in quarantine. He's turning 11. He's a Star Trek fan. If you want to, we'd love for you to come just, chat with us, whatever. And I didn't really hear anything back. I did get a response saying, hey, can you send the Zoom info from, Anson's person that handles that. And so I was like, yeah, here's our Zoom info for this time, this date. And so I told my sister, I was like, this might happen. It might not happen. Because I hadn't heard anything back after that. And then all of a sudden we're in our Zoom meeting, 12 o'clock. And about 25, 30 minutes later, I get a ding on the Zoom that says Anson Mount would like to join. And I'm like, somebody's messing with me, right? And so I hit accept, and up pops Anson with his full beard and, his quarantine hair, sitting in his like lovely home with, I think it's in Connecticut, because we were talking about that. He was telling us about his chickens, and he sat there and he chatted with, he said happy birthday to Nathan. We chatted a little bit. He stayed on for about 25 minutes and just talking. And I really wanted to ask him about the possibility of a Pike series. And I was like, hold your tongue. He did a nice thing for an 11-year-old, not for your old, almost 40-year-old self. He did it for Nathan, not for you. Don't embarrass yourself by asking him something that even if it was happening, he couldn't talk about it anyway. And don't you know, 5 days later was when they posted that video with him, Rebecca Romaine, and Ethan Peck, that they announced Strange New Worlds. It wasn't even a week later. It was like 6 days later, 5 days later that it happened. So I was like, oh man, missed opportunity there. But he wouldn't have been able to say anything. So, but yeah, so since then, I mentioned him too much. I'm surprised he hasn't blocked me on Twitter, because I'm forever grateful. Same with like Karl Urban and, Gates McFadden, who we briefly met at the Ticonderoga set tour. Anybody that has helped enhance my nephew's experience with Star Trek to be a positive one in any way, you're pretty much on my, good list forever and ever. So Anson Mount is forever on the good list for just being a generous guy who randomly showed up to 2 people. And it was like 2 of us. I know he joined another Zoom meeting that had like 30 people in it, but he joined like me and Nathan just hanging out. I literally just read a bunch of like tweets that I for Nathan's birthday that people had posted for him last year, and all of a sudden Anson Mount shows up. So sorry if you heard that story before, listeners, but it's my favorite story pretty much of all time. And we have a photo where I said, "Hey, can I take a picture?" And so instead of taking a screenshot like a normal human, I took a photo with my camera phone of the screen that I'm looking at right now. But that actually hangs in both my house and in Nathan's room. Photo that day. So yeah, that's one of my favorite stories. Really, Star Trek.
That's such a great story. Yeah, that is, and once again, it's the reason why I love doing this show, hearing stories like that of, because it's more about than just collecting. It's, once again, it's that connecting through collecting that we really talk about here. So, Patrick, really appreciate you spending the time with us, and where can you be found online?
I am always available to talk Trek or, hockey, if you like hockey, on Twitter at PatrickE34. It's a super creative name. So definitely feel free to come over and talk Trek and ask me questions. And always willing to talk about collecting Star Trek. I like to keep it positive for the most part over there, though sometimes I'll go into a few rants. But if you can handle those, come for the Star Trek, stay for the random thoughts on life.
Yeah, I gotta echo Jamie's words, and thank you for joining us. And we do really appreciate it. But we're also looking for other collectors, just like Patrick, who would like to be featured on the Divine Treasury.
You can find us on Twitter at Divine_Treasury, on Instagram with the same handle. We're both on Facebook and can be found popping into and out of Camp Kittimer from time to time. So if you'd like to be on the show, just like Patrick here, direct message us on one of these platforms, and please send us your pictures or videos.
You can also subscribe to the Trek Geeks Podcast Network YouTube channel, where you will, at the very least, get the audio recording of all of our podcasts. But we are hoping to debut some videos coming soon of some of our collections, as well as maybe some stuff regarding Star Trek Picard, the Rittenhouse set. If you enjoy the Divine Treasury, you can subscribe to the podcast by searching for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as well as the aforementioned Trek Geeks Podcast Network app, which is available both on Apple and Android devices.
You can also support the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by supporting us on Patreon. Get access to unedited recordings of every episode on the network, as well as other exclusive content and so many other awesome perks.
And if you would like to become a producer on the network or get access to raw audio for the Divine Treasury, head over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Trek like we do. We'd also like to thank 5 Year Mission for allowing us to use their awesome music on this show. And collectors, we're speaking to you specifically. They're writing a song for every episode of the original series. And this isn't parody music, but this is content based on the show itself. So please go to 5yearmission.net, put some CDs in your cart, because we know in collecting, it's all about the physical media. It's not about the downloadable content. So please pick up year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, as well as The Trouble with Tribbles and Spock's Brain. Make 5 Year Mission a part of your collection today.
And on our next episode, we look forward to talking to someone from the network. We're going to talk to Sarah from Rewind. It's not as crazy as Rewind typically would be. Pretty reined in. It was before dinner out in Canada. On our next episode, Sarah from Rewind. Until then, this has been episode 17 of the Divine Treasury. The Divine Treasury, connecting through collecting.
Music for the Divine Treasury is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. The Divine Treasury is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.